Hello, in today's video I'm going to be going through the basics of using the FontSelf Maker extension in Adobe Illustrator to create your first digital font and or your first digital sticker font set. My aim is that by the end of this tutorial you'll be able to turn your own unique designs into a functional font or sticker font set. So let's get started. The first thing is, if you haven't already installed the FontSelf Maker extension, go ahead and install. Next is you can either create your own font template file or open the FontSelf template for Adobe Illustrator, which looks like this. Okay, so you can absolutely use this as your guide when you're creating your fonts. You've got the basic, you've got advanced, and you have additional character sets on the second page. This is by no means the absolute extent of the characters that you can create a font with, but it is a good start. So if you would like to, you can go ahead and use this guide, or you can create your own. So once you've launched Adobe Illustrator, you will either have the FontSelf Maker on your sidebar or you will not. So if you do not see it, just go up to Window and go to Extensions, which is there, and you will see what extensions you have. You should have the FontSelf Maker 3.5.8 if you've just installed it. Okay, let's have a look at the FontSelf Maker extension. So you've got a couple of options here. You've got new, which is grayed out because we're currently in a new one. You can open an existing font of yours that you've created with the FontSelf app and make adjustments to it. This one will obviously be your save, and the font info, which we can go into more detail once we've started to create the font. Here you'll be able to put in a bunch of characters and you separate them by a comma. Here is your most common characters in your fonts, capitals, lowercase, and the numbers. Batch, I will show you why I don't think it's the greatest option and why I actually just prefer to do this one here, which is the create glyph. Okay, now let's have a look at my template here. So I've decided to create my own. What I've done is I'm using data sets. So as you can see here, I've got 30 artboards and each one of them has one character on each, which I've then used a variables library to import the various characters. And then if I go down to this one, this last one obviously hasn't changed simply because it doesn't have a variable there in the data set. So I don't quite have 30 sets of 30, but as you can see, I've got quite a few. You will notice that some fonts don't show up, some characters. So all that means is this particular font that I've chosen doesn't have that character in its font file. So I would just go ahead and do as many as I could. And then on this one here, I would change the font for that particular character. So let's go back to the beginning. So I can cycle through all of them even though it is locked. So I keep it locked so that I don't accidentally move anything around, so that everything stays in place. And then each time I do a data set, I name it which data set it is, and then I turn it off. So as you can see here, this is data set 1, and I've locked it and turned it off because I have already imported it into my font that I want to create from this one. Here is the next one, and so forth. So I just create 30 at a time, import them into my FontSelf extension, and then once I've imported them, I go ahead and lock it. So I'm going to put this one back on, I'm going to turn this one off, and we're going to have a look at importing. So first basics that we need is to be able to use the layer. Alright, so here is the numbers for the font. So I can go ahead and click on this one, or I can go ahead and go like that and create the 10 characters that way. So create 10 here, and that would import those ones. Or I can drag and drop them, and I can hover over this one and let go. So if I do that, it'll import the 0 to 9. I don't like the drag and drop method just simply because that can happen, is your letters go out of alignment and things like that, and I want to keep everything as it should be without having to undo anything. I'm also going to show you right now why I don't like the batch feature. So I've got 10 highlighted here, so not the whole 30, and if I hit batch, it imported them, but I now have to go in and change everything to what it's supposed to be. So I want that to be a 1, and then I have to click over here and make that a 2. So batch is just, it's fine, but it is totally inconvenient to actually do anything via batch. Okay, so as you saw, batch is not very convenient. You either want to use uppercase for the uppercase letters, lowercase, and 0 to 9 for the most common ones, or you can do them all together in a real batch creation method, which is here you would type in your characters, separating them via a comma. So in this instance, if I do these 30 here, what I would put in here would be this. It would look like this. So it's just 0, 1, 2, 3, etc. all the way down until I've got all 30. And here it gives the confirmation that it's going to be 30. All right. Something also to look out for is, as you can see here, this is grouped, and there is a reason for that, because if it is ungrouped, that is now 3 items, 3 objects, and so that would then count as 32 objects as opposed to 30, and I'll show you what will happen if you don't group your symbols. Too many objects are selected, 32 instead of 30. Check that each character is a single object. Its shape should be combined into a single group or united via the Pathfinder tool. So that was because I ungrouped the percentage here. If I group that back up, that now counts as 1 as opposed to 3 objects. And if I've got everything selected now, it should be 30, and I've got 30 glyphs to create. So I'm just going to select the create 30, and it imports it. So that is so much better. You can see here that it is imported correctly. Everything has a symbol to it. There is no warnings or yellow boxes, or sorry, I think it was orange boxes that you have to go through and then assign the character to. So that is my preferred method, is if you've got the everything set up beforehand, it'll make the actual designing different fonts so much faster. So that's those ones. And then if I go to my next data set, which I created, I've got, sorry, there we go. I've got these ones. So I have another 30. So I just pull them from here. Now obviously this is just, I'm just pulling them from my data merge sheet. You will want to have another file, which is the notepad, so that when you put in your characters, it's not coming in with spaces, it's actually coming in with the comma. So we just paste it in, so everything is separated by a space at the moment, but we don't want that. We want it separated by a comma. So I'm just going to go Control H, and it's already set up for the space and the comma. Replace all, and I close that, and then I just paste that in. So now it's telling me that I can create 30 glyphs. I have 30 highlighted and everything is grouped as it should, so I just click on create. Okay, I think you're starting to possibly get the idea. And if I go to the third data set and lock that one, open that one up, you'll see that I've got the capitals and a few extra symbols. And because I haven't set up my notepad, I've got the same problem again. So I'm just gonna quickly change that. I'd like to say I'm doing this on purpose, it's just I have been lazy and I haven't actually created a note with everything separated by commas, but I will get around to it. So I'm just going to create the next 30. Okay, and as you can see, I've now started to form the most basic characters of a font. If I go to the next variable sheet, dataset 4, I turn that one off, and now I can highlight that, this one, and you would just do this for every character that you're wanting to include in your font. Place all, and create. Okay. Once you have completed adding all your, your characters and your fonts as to what you're wanting it to be, you can go ahead and adjust the alignment, the kerning and the spacing and everything, or you can simply click on the Smart adjustment, and this space and kerns all your glyph in one click, yada yada yada. Max height and vertical like H, and you can change that if you need to. Okay, and then it shows you here what it's going to look like, your font, when you start using it. If you click on this, you can adjust the letter space individually, the line space, the scale. If you go into advanced, you can really, get geeky with it, and I kind of make this bigger. There we go. Change all the different little things that you would like. Obviously, you can see here that there are certain characters we haven't quite finished creating yet. Okay, so that should cover the absolute basics that you're going to be doing. It's just obviously a rinse and repeat after that. You can name the family name of the font, so the font family, you put that there. Obviously it's giving you a note of no brand names, please, but I think you're pretty safe with your own name. This style is regular, this style is bold italic, or something else. We're just doing regular for now. The designer is myself. Visit me. And manufactured, blah blah blah, where you can get it, licensed, view my license, more, just all the things that you can include in the font file. And then the other thing that I wanted to show was this one here. We'll lock that and we'll close that. Okay, so if you like, you can create font stickers. So for example, this here is not grouped, but it is a vector, vectorized black and white, black vector image, and I can group that and I can put that into the font. So for example, if I go to something I haven't done yet, I haven't done the end ones. Let's just use one of them. Alright, so this one here, let's say for example that I am not going to actually include this actual symbol in the final font that I create. I'm choosing not to put that one into the font, but I can actually put it into the font as a sticker or this image here. So if I put that in here, and then I do need to resize it because it will need to match the rest of the font. So it should be able to fit within that box like so. And just remember that the image that you create here is a vector image when it is in the font, which is how you can get vectors into GoodNotes. What that means is that vectors are scalable, so when you do bring this into GoodNotes, you can enlarge it without losing the quality. So highlight that one and I just create the glyph here, and there you go. So now when I save my font, I will be able to use this symbol to create the sticker. So if I go save, this is the one that I'm currently working on, but we're just going to call this demo font. I'm going to hit save here. And if I open the browse destination, it will bring that up, and the demo font here. If I double click on it, you will see that I have the option to install it. And now if I go to the text box and change this to demo font and change this to something bigger so you can see it, and if I paste in Control All and I make this bigger, you will see that this is now part of the fonts. Okay, anyway. Okay, now with doing things like this, you do have to keep in mind that your total object points or nodes, let's have a look. There we go. So the points of a object, these here, the points, the nodes, they do need to be kept to under a certain amount. I don't know off the top of my head right now what the max number of points are, but if you do have something like this that you would like to use, you'll need to minimize the number of nodes that your design has in it. So you can either do that manually by hand and going through and deleting points that are not necessary, such as this one. I go and delete the anchor point. Here it's got one less anchor point, and you can go around and finesse everything until you have as few points as possible to keep and retain the same outline. Or you can highlight your artwork and you can go to Object, Path, and Simplify. And as you can see here, you can use this window to adjust how many points you've got. So the original has 262 points, and just by using a 75% simplify on your vector graphic, you can reduce it down to 112. This obviously, bringing it to 100 brings you back up to, well, it only brings you up to 197 points, so that gets you as close to the original design as possible. And if you bring it all the way down to the minimum, it will take out as many points as possible. That brings you down to 98 points. But you can see that there is a significant difference in your design when you do it that way, as this is 100% reduce down to minimum. Like, you can see the difference there. So play around with that if you do need to reduce some points, or you can do it, like I said, one by one at a time and keep it minimally done. Hope you enjoyed, and let me know if you have any questions. Is there anything that I have not covered?